Yeah, he had the obscure label or something, or some label.
And what was he like to work with? I mean, did he bring a lot of experience, influence, or?
Yeah, he did. Um, I was a little bit suspicious that it might get a little bit too arty. That's an awful. Gave us a very good influence, but he did. I remember him doing something where he detuned my piano on one thing. It's amazing how you have these memories. And it was eccentric, but it was an area that was probably a bit too eccentric for me, a bit too funny, because we were kind of hyped up kids, you know. It was like, but for me personally, he brought in a chance to use a proper synthesizer, because I hadn't used one before, which was really nice. I mean, it was brilliant. He was a very keen guy to work with, you know, using the Mini Moog. And I think, in just thinking about that now as I'm saying that, the way it kind of annoyed me as well in some ways related to the keyboards, it's because he took it out of control a little bit. But I think what he was trying to do was put a bit of humour into us and just to chill out a little bit, because I think he knew what we were going through. Because we were slightly against the tide even when we signed there, because he knew we were in the shadow of Roxy Music, because they'd just actually left that label. So it was quite good. He had these cards which he would use to prevent people from getting blocked in the studio. So you just choose these cards and it'd say like, piss off and have whatever, go and get fish and chips and have a chat, or just to try and loosen things up. So it was quite helpful then, because it was, but like it is a bit of a long time ago.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about those days on Ireland. You know, what was, like you're saying, punk was, I suppose, quite prevalent at the time.
It was. I mean, the Damned were there. They made it their home with Stiff, Dave Robinson. So, yeah, we felt a bit like, hang on, we're the new boys, you know. And it was like, but are we? You know, it was a bit difficult, you know.
And what was it, you know, musically? What was your aims, direction? You know, particularly the first three albums.
Sounds a bit dumb to say, but I think it was just a constantly experiment. We'd made a conscious decision. We actually got the deal from doing pop tunes, because we really did that thing, making pop records. Steve Lillywhite, the producer, got us in at Phonogram Studios at downtime at the weekend. This is before we got the deal. And so we did the pop thing. And we actually made a conscious effort not to do it. We preferred the other stuff we were doing. And it was just to be schizoid, really. We got accused of being a schizoid. But it didn't work for us in the end, because I think if something so strong as punk wasn't around, it might have done. But there wasn't really room for a band that was like that. We wanted to cover all these areas. We wanted to do stuff that was like punk, and then suddenly go to something with acoustic guitar and violin, say, like we used to start the set like that, and then go over to drum machines. We wanted to experiment a lot. And John Fox wanted to just use his voice in all kinds of different ways. I think really just open up and learn and try different things. We were a band that were reasonably old compared to the other bands, because we actually got together at end of 72, early 73. So when the punk thing came along, you can see how we kind of deliberately did our own thing, almost bloody-mindedly, you know. So that's what we wanted to achieve. But it was more than that. We aspired to the do-it-yourself thing of the punk thing, right from the beginning. And we were quite I wasn't anti-improvisation, because I liked the idea of an album to experiment. But I did subscribe a little bit to the fact that it was getting overblown before punk came along. We all did. And I was a little bit against the Americanization of it. I'm not anti-American. What I mean is, I didn't always have empathy towards R&B and blues scales, you know. But a rock and pop audience do, you know, i.e. the big hit by Human League is actually, you know, quite sort of bluesy. It's kind of flat and 7 stuff we're talking, you know, bluesy sort of scales, and we wanted to just make our own kind of music, and to get that we were drawing more. I mean, when I used to put classical chords in and stuff, instead of it being blanked, it was actually met with real positivity, you know. I mean, that's what was really good about Ultravox.
And in those island dates with John Fox, who was, you know, who was the direction in the band? Who was, you know, pulling the strings, so to speak?
It was John's band. It was John's band, but like I say, he was open to influences, and he was very much of the kind of guy of working with what elements are in there and accepting them and letting them be. He wasn't like a dubious politics, but he wasn't an absolute control freak, which he may sort of tend to think. But let's face it, things did